Welcome back to a little Jays talk, everybody. This was a typical Blue Jays game up until it wasn't, as the Blue Jays ended up downing the San Diego Padres 14-0 to pull back to 500. And I'll get into what I mean by that comment in a minute here. But first, make sure to like and subscribe if you're enjoying the content, as it will help the channel grow. I appreciate it. Thanks. So, let's get into the recap. We had Kevin Gausman on the mound against Vasquez pitching for San Diego, and San Diego's bats have had a really hard time getting going right now. That's a couple series in a row now that they've been dealing with some serious offensive struggles. Kevin Gausman goes out there in the first inning, gives up a double to Arias, but other than that, has a clean inning. He gets a strikeout of Tatis, fouls out Machado, and then strikes out Merrill. His splitter was really on tonight. He had a ton of whiff with it. He had a ton of chase with it. It looked like prime Kevin Gausman, and I think that's what we're going to be getting for the remainder of this season. Not prime Kevin Gausman, but the ebbs and flows, the ups and downs of him. I think that's just his age catching up to him, and some nights he's going to feel good and be locked in, and other nights he's going to be dealing with ailments and things like that. And yeah, I think that's just really who we're going to have to get used to seeing this year, is the Cy Young version, and then the not quite as good version on any given night. Vasquez was actually pitching really good for the Padres. He kept it 0-0 through one, and it was the same story in the second, as both of them went 3 up, 3 down. Third inning, still cruising on both fronts. So this is what I meant when I said, it was a typical Jays game until it wasn't, because it was all the way until the bottom of the fifth before we finally pushed through on Vasquez, with Santander singling to right to lead off the inning. Barger then flies out. Clement then grounds into a fielder's choice, so you've got 2 out with 1 on. And then Nathan Lucas steps up and hits a deep fly ball to right field, 373 feet, and gone. It is 2-0 Blue Jays. Bo Bichette then reaches on an infield single, and Vladimir Guerrero Jr. then grounds into a fielder's choice, so leaving it 2-0 through 5. Kevin Gausman still dialed in, cruise control. He gets Diaz to ground out, Tatis Jr. to fly out, Arias then triples, and then Machado flies out, so it's 2-0 heading to the bottom of 6, where it remains that way. They've now got Estrada in pitching for San Diego, and we were unable to do anything off of him there. And then in the 7th is where we really blow it open. So Gausman, again, finishes 7 strong. He gets Merrill, Bogarts, and Sheets out in the top of the 7th. And in the bottom of the 7th, the wheels tend to fall off for the Padres here. Barger singles to lead it off. Clement grounds into a fielder's choice. Nathan Lucas tries to hit a sac bunt. So Clement had actually got on safe there, as Barger was safe at second on a fielding error. Lucas hits a sac bunt. He's also safe on an error by Manny Machado. Bichette grounds into a fielder's choice, scoring Barger. Lucas out at second, Clement to third. So now you have first and third with 1 out. Here, 1 sec. Where were we here? Yeah, so we're in the 7th inning here. We've made it 3-0. Guerrero Jr. singles to center. Clement scores. Bichette to second. It's now 4-0. Jacob comes in to pitch for San Diego, and unfortunately he was faring no better. He gets Varsho to strike out swinging before Springer reached on an infield single to third. Bichette scored on throwing error by third baseman Machado. I think this was the one of the errors that they called on Machado. It was a pretty pickable ball by Arias. He just didn't make it. I'm not sure if it was that one or the other one. But yeah, one of them was a pretty questionable call charging to Machado. But either way, definitely not a well-played inning defensively for the Padres here, as the wheels are falling off and it's now 5-0. Kirky then walks loading the bases, and Clase comes in to hit for Santander. So we find out after the fact that Santander is actually dealing with some hip issues now, some hip inflammation. Hopefully that won't be too long, more than a few days. But Clase comes in to hit for him in a key spot here, 5-0, bases loaded. And we're really hoping we can blow the doors off here and just kind of save Jimmy, save Hoffman, save some of these leverage arms. And ultimately we were able to do that as Clase doubles to center. Guerrero Jr. scores, Springer scores, Kirky moves up to third. So huge clutch hit for Jonathan Clase. Barger then flies out to end the inning. And then instead of having to go to those leverage arms, like I say, every other game's been tight. So we've gone to Little here, Hoffman here, Jimmy here, all these guys. But instead we're able to go to Urena for the 8th inning. And he comes in, does a great job. He lets up the infield single to Diaz, and then Tatis Jr. is safe out of throwing error. This was us returning the favor to them. That infield single was a hard hit ball to the third base side of Bo Bichette. He ranges to his right, fields it, makes a good throw over. It was a perfect long hop in my opinion. Vladdy dropped down into the splits and tried to scoop it and dropped it. That's another one of those plays where it's not necessarily an error, and it wasn't charged an error on him, but a good first baseman makes that play. It hopped, 10, 15 feet in front of him, popped right up into what would have been his chest. Very catchable ball by a good first baseman, or if he hadn't committed to doing the splits there, he would have caught it, I think, quite easily. Anyways, then the very next throw was Addison Barger. This one was more on Barger, as he, for whatever reason, went down to a submarine arm angle, and with how hard he throws, there's no need for him to be taking his time, waiting until it's a tight play, and then firing it across. And also just the way that he dropped his arm angle down to the side like this, I didn't like the play personally. He skips it across to Vlad. Tough play. It was one of those in-between hops where it's kind of right out in front of him. And ultimately that was charged an error, rightfully so, to Barger. So it was still 7-0, and then we get Arias to fly out to right, ultimately ending the threat. But it could have gotten interesting there. A home run there or something like that makes it a whole new ball game, and you're having to go to your leverage arms and all that. But anyways, we avoided all that, kept it 7-0 heading to the bottom of the 8th, where we put it out of reach. So Jacob's still pitching, and he hits Clement with a pitch. Nathan Lucas singles, Bichette singles, Guerrero Jr. grounds into a fielder's choice, but there was another error, and it made it 8-0. That one didn't make it 8-0. The Bichette single made it 8-0. So Guerrero Jr. ends up having the throwing error by the shortstop. Everyone's safe. Stefanik comes in to run for Guerrero. Varsho steps up, bases loaded, bottom of the 8th inning, goes deep center field, a grand slam, making it 12-0. And Dalton Varsho now has 17 RBIs on the year. And I think, I'll double check here, but I think Vlad has like 22. Yeah, Vlad has 22, Bo has 24, and Varsho already has 17. And he's only played in not even half the games of those guys. Crazy stuff out of Varsho. He's been our hottest hitter by a mile. He's our best run producer right now, which is just crazy to say. And that trade is aging like a fine wine this season. It might not remain that way, but hey, right now it's looking good. Springer comes in and doubles right after him, bringing in Wade to pitch for the Padres. And Clase walks, Barger doubles, Clement singles, yada, yada, yada. It ends up being 14-0. Urania comes back out to close out the 9th. He does so. Good job by him. He lets up a single to Machado and then gets Merrill, Iglesias, and Sheets out. 14-0 Blue Jays. Just what we needed. We've been commenting all year long about how we need the odd blowout. We can't be doing all of these one-run games, and we finally did it. Now, we probably didn't need to do 14 all in one go. We could have spread that out over a couple of 7-run games, but beggars can't be choosers. It was a fantastic game. I did miss about the 3rd and the 4th inning, I think, driving my kid to T-ball, and then it was ultimately canceled, so I got to come back and watch the rest of it. So I wish I'd gotten to see all 9 innings, but I did get to see the fun stuff at the end, and that's what really matters. And by the way, shout out to East Coast Blue Jays. I popped into their stream for the good innings there at the end of the game, and it was a riot in there. So if you're not subscribed to them or if you don't watch any of their streams, you should definitely do so. Anyways, we will leave you off there. Great game by the Blue Jays, a 500 ball club, and vibes are high. Let me know what you guys thought in the comments down below. All right, we'll talk to you guys later.